On the first day of Christmas, Optimus gave to me the War for Cybertron Trilogy. Hello!
I'm your host, Predacon Paul.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And I am your host, Decepticon Doug.
Be gone with him.
Today we're talking about the Transformers War for Cybertron, Earthrise.
The Earth has risen from the depths of obscurity.
I gotta say, there wasn't a lot of Earth rising in this, was there? Where we left off was that Optimus Prime found the Allspark, and he's just like,
I'm gonna yeet it into this portal.
He yeets it into the space bridge, and then he's like, well, I guess I should go get it. So he takes the Ark, shoots up to follow it, and then they fell asleep. Back on Cybertron, it's actually presumed that Optimus died. Like, I think it looked like kind of like there was an explosion, so deadness happened.
Ali are the ones like, we need to rescue some Decepticons. And Starfire's like, yeah, wait, what? Why are we rescuing these guys? And she's like, because we're Autobots. That's what we do. And he's like, right, Autobots save.
Good guys be goodin'.
But these guys are Decepticons, and they're certainly not gonna help us out in a pinch later on in the show.
And the Decepticons are like, well, you're saving us. Okay, bye. And the leader one's like, see, that ain't no thing. Ain't no thing but a chicken wing.
Mm-hmm. But it turns out that the reason why these Decepticons are inside these prison camp things is for a very good reason.
Yeah.
Well, a bad reason, depending on...
Depending on your point of view, for Shockwave, who's cold and merciless, it's a great reason. For anyone who doesn't believe in mass genocide, not the best reason.
Or organ harvesting.
Megatron, in order to power up Project Nemesis.
But I wonder what it could be.
It could be anything, really.
It could be a Planet 9. Mm-hmm. You know, Nibiru, Nemesis, the sun's evil twin. It could be Tom Hardy, you know, Star Trek Nemesis, you know, Picard's evil twin. It could be a starship.
In order to generate enough energon to make the starship do its starshipy thing,
fly.
One could call it flying. Flying, shooting, you know, you need a lot of
space.
You need a lot of energon, and in order to do that, you need to collect a lot of sparks and basically turn them into energon, which you know is hard when essentially the Autobots are gone. So Megatron's like, I guess we could just use some Decepticons, you know.
Well, it's what's his name?
Shockwave.
Shockwave's like, let's disassemble and deactivate Sector 12. And Megatron's like, we will deactivate Sector 12 when I say we'll deactivate Sector 12. And Shockwave's like, need I remind you that we need this energon? And then Megatron's like, when I say, and then he goes off to Sector 12.
He's the boss, after all. Oh, I guess
he signs his paychecks. We
should say real quick, Cybertron is no longer able to produce its own energon because the Allspark has been removed from it. So basically, the energon has to come from somewhere, and because the planet in and of itself is dying without the Allspark.
Damn.
Yeah, so, you know, difficult situations call for some difficult decisions.
So Megatron takes a trip out to Sector 12 to go and see some of his people because, according to Shockwave, they are underproducing things.
Yeah, according to Soundwave.
And I second that.
Yeah.
100%.
And so, you know, it's hard for Megatron to dispute those facts.
So he goes there just to see, should I deactivate this sector or not? He shows up and everyone's like, oh my god, it's Megatron.
We're your biggest fans.
Yeah.
We love you, Megatron.
They got signs, they got banners, they're gonna have a banquet in his honor. And he's like, oh, y'all are loyal. And he's like, yo, watching you was an inspiration. And while we're only doing 22% efficiency, we're going to get that number up to 44 as soon as we get more energon. And they're like, yeah.
Yeah, because most of the workforce is apparently...
dead or dying.
Yeah, apparently working conditions not the best on Cybertron right now. And they're even too weak to unionize properly. So Megatron leaves and Shockwave's like, so Megatron, are you going to like bust that place up or what? And Megatron's like, hey, I'll bust it up when I say. And okay, by the way, yeah, Sector 12 shut it down. And by Sector 12, it is now shut down.
It was a sad day. It was like this. Here's a dramatic reenactment. Shut it down. It's very spooky.
That was near traumatizing.
I was traumatized.
So Alita,
Her and Starfire like argument over resources, and she's like, no, it's not the way. And he's like, is it the way? And then they're like, oh, look, a larger signal of people in prison camps over there. And they're like, we're going to go rescue them.
let's go check it out.
Lo and behold, Starscream.
Starscream. Before that, actually, they run into their old friend Admiral Akbar, and they're like, Akbar, we're just gonna go check out these Decepticons that are trapped in here and liberate them.
And there's also an Autobot there too.
Oh yeah,
A fellow Autobot.
And he's like, well, I wish you guys the best of luck. I don't see anything that could go wrong. Meanwhile, in deep space, there's the Ark just sitting out there.
Of the Covenant.
The Ark of the Cybertron, and
Yeah.
it's just sitting out dead in space somewhere out there. The Autobots are still on their nap.
The alarm didn't go off.
Yeah,
yet.
what happened is that Bumblebee set an alarm, it went off, and Wheeljack just like, he meant to hit the snooze button, but he actually hit the stop button, which is an easy mistake to make when you're very tired. And so they just kept on sleeping.
And then a bunch of space pirates gets on their ship, and they're like, that's it.
We're gonna take your stuff and
I'm going to take your
let you
ship.
sleep.
And then all of you Autobots are going to go to the Quadrilateral.
Quintesson?
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, they basically bring back the Autobots to the Quintesson. Hey, we got you these Autobots, and the Quintessons are like, well, we don't know what to do with them because we have 5 different personalities, and we're just gonna bicker about it, and we should make a decision. We should go talk about it and go work out our feelings. One of the personalities decides, to hell with this whole deliberating thing. She's just gonna slice off her other faces and become a single mind. But unfortunately, that's the craziest mind out of all the minds.
She definitely seems a tad bit unstable. Like, you're not fitting any horses in there.
No, there's no horses in that stable whatsoever.
The space pirate's like, hey, you owe me money. And they're like, we'll pay you when you fix this damn door.
You'll get your rent when you fix this damn door!
So the Autobots are tied up, but now that she hasn't fixed the door of those poor mercenaries, they decide, hey, you know what we should do? Just not let them have the Autobots. The Autobots get free, and Optimus Prime is like, thank you. And then,
I owe you a debt of gratitude.
yes. They all go into the Ark and make their way off to a starbase, which is connected to a space bridge. So that's their only way they're going to be able to get to where the Allspark is.
And the space bridge is still open because there's a giant space station sticking out of it. Mm-hmm. Whose space station? Don't know.
Not mine. I can say that much for sure. On Cybertron, they get a little beacon. Soundwave is like, which one is beacon? And Megatron's like, huh? And he's like, the beacon. And Megatron's like, what? I don't want to hear about it. It's the Ark. Oh, it's the Ark. Now you're talking. Let's go. And he's like, well, that's great because I just killed enough of my own people that I can now charge up the old Project Nemesis.
Yeah.
And down from the clouds comes a big old purple spaceship.
And actually, like, artistically, watching it descend through the clouds was really cool. Although, why bring the ship into the atmosphere? It's going to cost you more energy to keep that thing in the sky than it would if you just stayed in orbit.
It would also make sense if they were building it on the ground and then they had to shoot it up into space.
I don't know. Because then you have to generate enough thrust to get the ship out of the atmosphere and out into space.
But it was a cool looking shot.
It was really cool.
So, I guess Megatron understood the aesthetics of the show. Shockwave was like, it's going to take up so much power to do that. He's like, look, the director's telling me he just really wants the fins to come down through the clouds.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get him that shot, whether it costs me 2 million more sparks or not. Meanwhile, on the space station, the Autobots arrive, and they're like, hey, it's really quiet here. I wonder what's going on.
And then a giant crab monster with a tail.
It is a scorpion, actually. It is Scorponok.
It's a land crab.
Yeah, not the Beast Wars Scorponok, but the G1 Scorponok, who's really big.
He's the last of the Scorpions.
He is the last of the Scorponoks. I don't exactly know what that means.
Well, it means that there was like a long line of them, and he's the last one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Like the Last Dragon, played by Sean Connery.
Yeah.
I am the last one.
There can be only one.
That too.
And sometimes you just need to give it a good slap. So they fight. And then the Decepticons show up and they're like, we should shoot him. They're like, no, the Allspark. Then they board the ship. And right when all is lost, They join forces, and he's like, if anyone's gonna kill Optimus, it'll be me. Crab Monster's like, no, because I'm the last Scorpion.
I am the last one.
Optimus is like, detonator. It explodes, and then Megatron's got a big thing in his chest.
He's like, ow, you should just let me die. And Optimus is like, we got a lot more episodes left, so I'm not going to be able to do that.
Not just yet.
Pulls it out of Megatron, and it turns out Cybertronians, pink blood, just like Klingons.
Yep.
Well, Klingons specifically in Star Trek 6. Gotta keep that rating down, guys.
Starscream takes over the Decepticons for all of a minute.
Maybe 3.5 minutes, I think. You know,
and it's like, kill everyone. They're scum. And then Megatron's like, no, I still function. And then he shoots him as he's in the middle of this riveting speech.
Base Bridge, dead universe, Galvatron.
He still functions.
And they meet everyone's favorite Shuttle Chicken.
Sky Chicken.
Beak, Sky Rim, Skydive, Sky. Maybe it is Skydive. No, Skylinks. Skylinks, yes.
And he's like, I once wanted the spark of leadership, but now I don't because I've had eons to sit in here and just think.
And stew on it, and just realize that, you know what? How could I even have the matrix of leadership if I'm just a Shuttle Chicken? Like, where's it gonna go?
Asking the tough questions here.
Yeah, and Optimus is like, yeah, it's true. You're just some kind of weird Shuttle Chicken, and I got the part of my chest that can open up and hold the Matrix, and you don't. And it's your fault for being who you are.
Yeah, how dare you get born like that? And then it's like, you have to believe in yourself and the touch and the power.
And you can win if you dare.
And then he did, and he dared, and then he opened a hole back to Earth. Boom.
Explosions, fighting.
Nemesis and the Ark crashed because the explosion was too powerful. And then we see a dinosaur.
Yeah. Some kind of bot. Because he's got the robot eye that was scanning stuff. So some kind of dino bot that's down there. Predacon Paul?
Yes, Decepticon Doug.
What did you think?
Okay, let's start with the voice acting.
Yeah.
Let's get this out of the way.
Again, yeah, you know, with the we don't want to harp on it too much, but
Optimus, it seems like he's doing his best impression of Peter Cullen's Optimus, which in some cases, in some ways it sounds like him, and I'm just kind of like, okay, I can get on board with this. And it sounds like he's really warmed up to the character, and he knows where he lives when he's not emoting in any way. The second he needs to emote, and whether it's like plead with his team, whether it's to call to battle, or whether it's beg for forgiveness from Megatron, and we're going to get to that. It's always the same, like, really pushed kind of voice thing, and it's so flat, and it just seems like he always taps into that same, he does the same thing.
Ultimately, like...
He just sounds like a dumb brute, and it's not Optimus Prime. It's Optimus Prime.
Definitely lacks confidence. And I actually kind of think that maybe his performance was a little worse in this one.
Really? I actually liked it a little bit more.
Okay, yeah, I guess... Okay, well, my main note
let's hear this main note.
His dramatic pauses do not come across as very natural. And he's actually not even the only one who does this.
Alita does it, too.
Honestly, like, do not make this a drinking game. You will only get yourself killed. Is that if you listen to him speak, every time he says I or we, it's like, I pause. Want you to forgive me. I think we should do this. We need to get the ship to the Allspark. It's like he was being given the instructions. She's like, okay, slow down. And instead of slowing it down in general, he just took more pauses. It just comes across as very unnatural, and also, like, you even notice as well, is that there's points where it felt like they paused because they had to turn the page of the script. So it's like, it felt like...
was like...
It's like, I'm sorry that you had to do, it almost felt like the sentence was finished, and then they continued. I would think that that'd be easy enough to fix just by editing the audio down to squish it.
It's like, I'm sorry you had to hear that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, and there's like a finality before she flips the page, just like, hear that.
Yeah.
You couldn't just cut and then retake that part. And that's a directorial problem. That's a production issue problem. That's not a voice actor issue.
Yeah, because it's a problem with more than one of the actors. It can't just be an actor problem. It's got to be like them not getting clear directions, or getting directions that just aren't getting the best performance from them. It felt more common this time around.
I feel like Alita's character as well was very like breathy and
exasperated
all the time.
Yeah.
every scene, it sounded like she was fighting back tears, which I think lends itself to the sense of hopelessness. But in this case, you can have all that in here, but you're supposed to be a leader. You're supposed to be inspiring your troops.
As actors, it's not nice to dunk on other actors, but at the same time, like we gotta review it honestly. Well, okay. One more note on that is that some of the newer characters in this one, I do feel like there's a bit of miscasting. Like the Scorponok character, I wasn't feeling big and menacing.
He was like, buddy.
Quintesson, some of the characters just kind of sound the same as other characters. I just think in general we need a more diverse voice palette. It's not like some of those performances were bad, but for the person who's in charge of the overall audio aesthetic needs to be able to hear where everything's at and cast to differentiate these characters. And it is tough when you have like a huge, like just tons of characters, but at the same time, like that's also your job. So, well, I think that's all we need to say about the voice acting. Again, we don't want to pick on anybody, but at the same time, like, it's hard to ignore because like the actors are the conduit. They're the people who you connect with when you're watching it. And if you don't buy what they're selling, you don't buy into the story. It's just a job where there's a lot of responsibility on your shoulders, and if there's bad acting, people pick it up. That's why it's a job that is like that people train so hard for.
It is really hard to do.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do well. Let's talk about some things that I really liked. The art style, amazing.
We didn't really get a chance to see it in the first story arc when they're traveling through space and actually like going into different dimensions and stuff like that. We get a unique chance to kind of see interesting takes on like faster than light travel or like the dead dimension or whatever it's called. And when there was a hole in space into the dead universe.
The edges look like they're on fire.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Nemesis coming through the clouds. Even in the moment, I'm sitting there going, Megatron, why are you going into low orbit in a ship when you already don't have enough fuel? But, whatever, it looks really, really cool.
I think it's, that's also the sci-fi nerds in us who like think about these things. Most people aren't going to think about those kind of things, I don't think.
Yeah, I guess.
It was kind of predictable, but I do like on Cybertron, Alita is starting to liberate Decepticons, and they're starting to join her cause because they see what Megatron's doing is wrong. And again, anything where it's like the lines are blurred for allegiance, the Decepticons don't have to agree with the Autobots on everything. All they really need to see is that, like, hey, our leader has gone astray and this is wrong and he needs to be stopped.
Mm-hmm. It's that idea that he's no longer the person he was when I swore allegiance to him, right? Mm-hmm. His mission is no longer in line with what my moral code is.
And you can even see that in the dialogue and that with those guys from Sector 12 or whatever. They really believed in Megatron and his goals, and all that wound up leading them to was basically an early death because he was no longer working for his people. He was working toward something different. And I think that Megatron's, he's still struggling with it, but I think he's fully kind of lost his way, but you can see that he's still trying to justify to himself why he's making these very difficult decisions. So I think there's a lot of very interesting character stuff in Megatron in this one.
Now that you're sort of like highlighting the Alita going through and like liberating the Decepticons, as well as, whatever Autobots are left, it's kind of interesting because didn't Alpha Trion say that like all is one?
Or until all are one, yeah.
Until all are one. Megatron and Optimus are so busy fighting each other that they stopped unifying in any way. They're the leaders of each respective ideology, and so they're fighting. Meanwhile, it's those that are underneath them, like Alita, who are actually doing what's necessary to all are one, make that happen. She's the one going and with her ragtag group of people for Decepticons and Autobots and unifying them to rescue others and presenting them with this, with the idea that maybe Megatron is misguided, maybe you're misguided for following him without being so heavy-handed. What am I trying to say here?
I mean, basically, I think
she's fulfilling that.
She's mostly just setting them free and more showing them the way rather than saying like, follow me. Like, there's a point where she's like, hey, if you're going to be with us, you have to follow our orders. But she never made any of those Decepticons follow them.
Yeah.
They came and they helped because they felt that it was the right thing to do. And I find it interesting that Jetfire, the former Decepticon himself, is probably the bigger naysayer of rescuing Decepticons.
Yeah.
Even though, like, essentially he's one of them. You know, he just defected for the same reason that these other guys are defecting. He can no longer stand behind what Megatron's doing.
You know what I did like about him, though? Even though his nature is telling him that this is a bad idea and we're just wasting resources and all of this stuff, the part of him that's a loyalist and a soldier first is the kind of person to go, hey, can we talk for a second? And she's like, yeah, sure, what's up? And he's like, look, I didn't want to say this in front of the guys, but I think this is a bad idea. And he's like, I wanted to voice my concerns. It's a bad idea because we already don't have any resources. We're already stretched to the limit here. We're barely holding it together. And you want us to rescue people who are probably going to shoot us in the back at the first chance, maybe like bring our heads to Megatron? And she's like, no, this is what we do. And he's like, all right, I've said my piece, and he just walks away.
You never get the sense that he's ever going to turn his back on them.
Yeah, he's kind of the MVP in this episode too, I think.
How did you feel about the Shuttle Chicken, Skylynx?
I thought he was cool. He kind of reminded me of the Red Skull. I was like, ultimate power. He comes back, but this time he's like the gatekeeper or something for the Soul Stone or whatever. And it's kind of cool that he'd accepted his fate at that point. And here in this one, he accepted his fate to a degree. He still wanted to get out, but he'd understood that, oh, the reason why I was sent here was to learn my lesson because bad. And then he ends up sacrificing himself, which I knew he was going to do.
What would have been great with a little more like foresight, if something about Skylynx was maybe introduced in Siege, and then this payoff was here, because it just kind of seemed like, boom, we're introducing you to this character. Here's a little bit of his background. Here's his philosophical speakings with Optimus, and okay, now we're gonna sacrifice his life and get out of here.
And you're supposed to care.
Yeah, and I just feel like they went through those motions a little too fast. So I would have liked to see something established in Siege for that moment to have more impact. Because, all in all, like, the character, he kind of goes through his whole character arc off screen. So,
yeah,
it's hard to, like, for us to feel, like, super attached to him. I mean, the most interesting thing about Skylynx is that he's got a really weird design.
He's a Shuttle Chicken, and he's gigantic.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. How did you feel about Galvatron's appearance?
I thought it was cool. As soon as I saw Galvatron, like, I was like, is that Galvatron? And you were like, yeah.
I do remember saying that. Yeah. I'm not always like that clever. Yeah, sometimes it just comes to me. And I'm like,
dude, sometimes things just click.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool that he was trying to get his younger self to change history so that he wouldn't be a slave to Unicron. I thought it was kind of cool that in the end we kind of got that. Unicron just shows up in the dark dimension. There's all of this stuff happening. There's all this war going on everywhere. And Unicron just shows up, doesn't care about anything else, doesn't care about the time stream, doesn't care about any of that stuff, just goes, get back here, slave. What are you doing? Bad.
Oh!
And then he's just like off. All the events of this entire Siege and Earthrise are just beneath him. And he's just like... It's
like, I just want my little toy back.
Yeah, come back.
He's like...
You swore fealty to me.
Maybe what he does is he has a little collection of Transformers. He just sets them up for like a little tea party every day, and he's like, hello, it's me, Galvatron. Hi, Galvatron. Would you like a biscuit? Of course I would. And he's like, get me out of this hell! Get me out of here!
I am Mrs. Nesbit.
So it was kind of cool seeing Unicron just sort of show up.
Yeah.
Get his boy, and then off he went.
It's kind of like foreboding. It's like, oh, things to come. Okay, great. We're gonna get into some of the not so goods.
So there's some things that bothered me about this story. One of the biggest issues that I'm having with it, what's the plot?
At this point, it's a fetch quest.
Yeah, and
they're trying. There's obstacles, and they're just trying to get. Here's the issue: they're trying to get the Allspark, but they're only there trying to get the Allspark because they threw it out. It's kind of this sort of weird self-forced plot.
The same can be said for the drama around the choices that they're making as well. It's like Megatron needs to have an internal conflict right now. He needs to go to Sector 12. And then he's like, nah, Shockwave, do it. And then he's just like, off he goes. And you're just like, gosh, that looked really difficult. And the next scene he's like, kill as many as you need. Give me that ship. can you pick a direction? Because he did that in the last episode too. He's like, Alita, join my team. And she's like, no. And he's like, kill her.
It's almost like
pick a direction.
He grapples with morality until he just gets really mad. And then when he's mad, he's just like, whatever, kill everybody.
And Alita, she leads without any sense of... I know she's still new at being the leader of the Autobots, but Megatron pulls you aside to talk to you, not anybody else. He wants to talk to you. And you need to figure out what Project Nemesis is, and the first thing you do is make fun of him. You talk shit to him, then he's like, that's it, get out of my sight. She's like, blah, 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 but Project Nemesis. It's like, number one, you didn't even talk about Project Nemesis until right after he told you to get out. He wouldn't even talk to me about it. It's like, well, of course not. You insulted him. Have you not seen any movies? You warm up to the guy, and you let him think that you're on his side. And Optimus, you have Megatron dead to rights. The first thing you do is ask for forgiveness, and then you take your eyes off him, and then whoever that is in down the hallway is like, Optimus? What are you doing? Guys, Optimus has a gun to Megatron! No kidding, Megatron's been trying to kill you for 12 episodes now.
Honestly, Optimus drops the ball so constantly in this 3 different times where he just could have finished it with Megatron. And one of them, all he had to do was just leave Megatron there he didn't have to pull the trigger. He could have just left him impaled to die. Then the Decepticons were in Starscream's hands. That's assured victory for you.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, if Starscream's in charge, you win. Optimus's decisions are so...
They don't make any sense.
Like, what are you trying to prove? At this point, it's too late. Megatron's lost it, and he'll gladly pull the trigger on you.
He's already massacred half of his people. He's already technically considered like near genocide to the Autobots. Cybertron was already crumbling before you took the Allspark out. Why do you need this to happen? Why?
It just felt the most contrived with the forgiveness bit.
Yeah. Where did that even come from?
It's like I need you to forgive me. I'm like, what? Like, it's Megatron. He's not Robo Jesus.
He's not.
he's not.
Where did that conflict come from? You decided, and you were devout in that decision, that we need to extract the Allspark because Cybertron is already gone. And if Megatron gets hold of it, then it's assured, it's 100%, everyone is dead. Okay, remove the Allspark, toss it through the thing. Why did I do that? Forgive me. Get out of town. And then that led to that internal conflict where he's like, you have to find inner peace, and then you can use the Matrix to punch a hole in the dimension. What?
Yeah.
Megatron is like, but you just gotta power up. The power's inside here. Don't use the guns; they don't work. And then he's like, then the whole Nemesis is going Super Saiyan, and then he like shoots a beam, and then Robot Chicken is just like, oh, I just saved the day. Like, come on. There's one contrivance after another to try to add a sense of high stakes, and it was just like, really, like, I've said enough.
I think I like the idea of them going on an adventure, you know, like having to travel across space and right through a dead universe to get to their objective. But I don't know. There's no fun in it. You know, I guess part of it is also like because it's part 2, we don't really see where it's going. We don't see what the resolution is. And maybe that will play a big part in why this might feel more worth it. Like the siege is establishing the conflict, and here's what's at stake, and then boom, we kind of go on the journey. And now there's gonna be part 3 where hopefully things get wrapped up in a satisfying way, which is a lot of weight on the shoulders of number 3.
This show just feels like something vital is missing from it. I don't know what that is. I mean, you're supposed to get this sense that Optimus is in all of this pain because he left Alita and because he had to pull the heart of the planet out. And I think he's grappling with the fact that he's losing this war and has been losing this war. And I think it's what they were aiming for was the Peter Parker struggle from Spider-Man 2, where he renounces even his own powers to try to have some sense of a normal life, but then he realizes that the world needs a hero, and that hero has to be him, and he has to be steady and give up the thing he wants most. but it just didn't come off very well because it wasn't written by Sam Raimi.
Should have been.
Should have been. You hear me, Sam? Because I know you're watching this. There doesn't seem to be any sort of consistency with the characters, their motivations, and the actions that they take.
And ultimately, it throws a lot at you as well. Like in this one, you know, we got the whole Skylink subplot. We got the Scorponok thing. We got the Quintesson thing. We got the Galvatron thing.
And there's also like Megatron and Optimus set aside their differences for all of 10 seconds, and then Megatron goes to shoot him. And then he gets distracted, like you said. He's got like ADD. And then he starts shooting at the Scorpion again.
Yeah, there's also definitely a few times where it's like Megatron was this close to pulling the trigger, and then he's like, huh?
And then the Scorpion is like, wait a second, you're like those the quadriceps things or whatever they're called. And it's like, okay, wait, so you can talk now? And then it's like, the weak point is his head, and it's like...
You know, there is a moment where they're like, we aim for the head, but even that doesn't really lead anywhere.
It doesn't do
like
anything.
they like shooting his head didn't make that much of a difference.
And he didn't even have any damage. They put the bombs on the space station, and then they walked through the space station, and they saw what looked like the Mushroom Kingdom from Sonic and Knuckles meets Super Mario with this weird city that was down there. And that didn't go anywhere. I was more interested in what was down there. I thought there was going to be this cool adventure where they end up on this planet and they're just sort of like, okay, what happened to those that were here? None of that paid off because Starscream shot the thing and then everything just disappeared and then they were all in the Dark Dimension. All of this, with the Scorpion and all of that stuff, all led to nothing because then we got Shuttle Chicken having a moment with Optimus, who for some reason has this internal conflict and he needs forgiveness from everyone, including himself.
Yeah.
Like, pick a thread and at least give us some sort of payoff.
Just a lot of like ideas that just don't go where they need to go. The original G1 series, it was like one of the final episodes. They were mandated to introduce a certain amount of characters because it was essentially a toy commercial. They wanted to show these characters, and the writer figured out that like in order to introduce all the characters they wanted to introduce in this short few episodes, they'd have to introduce them like one per like every few seconds. So they introduced a lot of them as groups. And even then, it was like really clunky.
It's like the Constructicons and like the Dino.
Yeah, basically, here's this group and here's this group. Do your thing, and they're like, here's your thing. It's a really weak storyline. It almost feels like they were like, okay, here, write a script. We need you to fit this in, this in, this in, and this in. And the person's like, well, I don't know how I'm gonna make this all work together. And just like, well, just write the script.
You have 24 hours. Here's a napkin.
You know, and they had a certain deadline to meet. They got everything on the list on there because they had to, and it's like, okay, job done, I guess. So I mean, I'm not gonna say that's how it was, but it is a bit like how it feels. Well, I fit in Unicron and Galvatron. I fit in Skylinks, and I fit in Scorponok, and I guess I did the job. You know, hopefully Netflix is happy. Okay.
I do feel like there's something vital missing from this story.
I'd agree. Yeah.
I just don't know what it is. I'll think about it tonight when I'm driving home. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what it is.
Full frontal nudity.
Well, we got thickness and lady thighs.
It's true, yeah.
They did a good job with their thighs, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, RC, she got the hard pumping apparently. Oof.
We were talking about her Lara Croft bust.
Her Lara Croft bust, Chung-Li thighs, Princess Leia hair.
Yeah. So they've essentially...
The perfect woman. Yeah. Let's make it 2.5 out of 5 Shuttle Chickens. We really want to see where it goes. What is the payoff for all of this? It's hard to say at the moment, but at this point in time, it's a lot thrown at us. Ultimately, what it comes down to is that there's not tons of characters that you can really be excited for and really feel like you're fully invested in. It's caught up in the big ideas, but is lacking in the sort of very personal aspect.
Do you think we're being too harsh? Because I think so.
Let's talk about it in the comments down below. Did you watch Earthrise? Tell us. We gotta know. We gotta know. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget,
tell your mom.
Boom.